The lights on Zephyr Station flickered as another mining ship docked. Marcus Chen wiped sweat from his forehead and checked his tool belt. He had been working for 16 hours straight, fixing broken machines and checking air systems. The mining station was always busy, with aliens and humans working together to dig up rare crystals from the nearby asteroid belt. Marcus walked down the metal hallway toward the main work area. His heavy boots made loud sounds on the floor. He was tired, but he needed to finish one more job before he could rest. His family back on Earth needed the money he earned here. Every extra hour of work meant his little sister could stay in school. As he turned a corner, Marcus heard something strange. It was a tiny scratching sound coming from inside the wall. He stopped walking and listened carefully. The sound came again. Scratch, scratch. It was too small to be a rat, and the station did not have many small animals. Marcus found the tool panel and opened it. The scratching sound was louder now. He grabbed his flashlight and looked inside the dark space behind the wall. Air tubes and power cables ran through the narrow area. Something moved in the shadows. "Hello?" Marcus called softly. "Is someone in there?" The scratching stopped. Marcus waited, but heard nothing. He made his voice quieter and tried again. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." A very small sound came from deep in the wall. It was like a tiny voice, but Marcus could not understand the words. He carefully moved some cables aside and looked deeper into the space. His flashlight beam caught something that made him gasp. It was a tiny person, no bigger than his hand. The small being had pale blue skin that seemed to glow a little in the dark. It had large, dark eyes and what looked like thin, clear wings on its back. One wing was bent at a wrong angle. The tiny person looked at Marcus and made a sound like a bird in distress. It tried to move away from him but could not go far because of the hurt wing. "Oh no," Marcus whispered. "You're hurt." He had never seen anything like this small being before. On the station, he had worked with tall gray aliens, small furry ones, and even some that looked like giant insects. But this tiny person was new to him. Marcus knew he had to help. The small being was obviously in pain and could not get out of the wall by itself. But when he slowly reached his hand toward it, the tiny person made a loud crying sound and pressed itself against the back wall. "I'm not going to hurt you," Marcus said in his gentlest voice. "I want to help." The small being looked at his large hand with terror in its big eyes. Marcus could see it shaking. He had worked with many different aliens, and he knew that some species were more afraid than others. This tiny person seemed very scared of him. Marcus thought for a moment. Then he took off his work glove and showed his bare hand. He moved very slowly, like he was approaching a frightened animal. The small being watched his every move. "See? Just a hand," Marcus said softly. "I know I'm big, but I won't hurt you." The tiny person said something in its high musical voice. Marcus did not understand the words, but the tone sounded desperate and afraid. Very carefully, Marcus reached into the wall space. The small being tried to move away, but there was nowhere to go. When Marcus's fingers came near, it curled up into a ball and made sad, scared sounds. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered as he gently picked up the tiny person. "I know you're afraid, but we need to get you out of there." The small being felt as light as a feather in his palm. Its skin was warm and very soft. The hurt wing dragged beside its small body, and Marcus could see that it was in real pain. Marcus stood up and looked at the tiny person in his hand. It stared back at him with those large, dark eyes. He could see intelligence there and terrible fear. "What's your name?" Marcus asked quietly. The small being said something that sounded like Kira. At least, that was what Marcus thought he heard. "Kira? Is that your name?" Marcus smiled a little. "I'm Marcus. I'm going to take you somewhere safe and look at your wing, okay?" "Kira, if that was really her name, looked at him with confusion and fear. She said more words in her musical language. Marcus wished he could understand her. Marcus walked carefully toward his quarters, holding Kira gently in his cupped hands. Other workers passed by in the hallway, but none of them looked closely at what he was carrying. Most aliens on the station minded their own business as they walked. Marcus felt Kira trembling in his hands. She kept looking up at his face with those big, scared eyes. Sometimes she would make soft sounds that reminded Marcus of a lost kitten. "It's okay," Marcus kept saying. "You're safe now." But he could tell that Kira did not believe him. She looked at him like she thought he might hurt her at any moment. Marcus wondered what had happened to make such a small person so afraid. When they reached his room, Marcus sat down at his small table and very carefully set Kira down on a soft cloth. She immediately tried to crawl away, but her hurt wing made it hard for her to move quickly. Marcus watched her struggle and felt sad. He had always been gentle with small things, even as a child. His mother used to say he had a gift for making frightened animals trust him. But this tiny person seemed more afraid than any animal he had ever met. "Let me look at your wing," Marcus said softly. Reaching toward Kira, she made a sharp, frightened sound and backed away from his approaching hand. Her whole body shook as she looked up at him. Marcus stopped moving and sighed. This was going to be harder than he thought. Marcus tried to think of a way to help Kira without scaring her more. The tiny person sat on the cloth, holding her hurt wing close to her body. Every time Marcus moved, even a little bit, she would tense up and watch him with those large, frightened eyes. "I need to look at your wing," Marcus said in the softest voice he could manage. "It's hurt, and it might get worse if we don't fix it." Kira said something in her musical language. Her voice was high and scared. She shook her head and pointed at him, then at herself, making quick gestures with her tiny hands. Marcus did not understand what she was trying to tell him, but he could hear the fear in her voice. He wished the station had better translation equipment in the living quarters. The main work areas had machines that could translate most alien languages, but his small room had nothing like that. "I'm going to get some water and bandages," Marcus said, speaking slowly and clearly. "I'll be right back." He stood up and walked toward his small bathroom. Behind him, he heard Kira make urgent, frightened sounds. When he looked back, he saw her trying to climb off the table. Her hurt wing made her movements clumsy, and she almost fell. "No, wait," Marcus said quickly. He hurried back and gently blocked her path with his hand. "You'll hurt yourself worse if you fall." Kira looked at his large hand in front of her and made a sound like crying. She said words in her language that sounded angry and desperate. Marcus could tell she was trying to tell him something important, but he had no idea what. "Please don't be scared," Marcus said. "I just want to help you." But Kira seemed to become more frightened when he spoke. Marcus noticed that when his voice was normal volume, she would cover her ears with her tiny hands. His voice was probably very loud to someone so small. Marcus got a small bowl of warm water and some thin cloth strips that he could use as bandages. When he came back to the table, Kira was sitting in the far corner of the cloth, as far from him as she could get. "This will help your wing feel better," Marcus said very quietly. Showing her the warm water, Kira looked at the bowl like it was dangerous. She shook her head quickly and said something that sounded like no. In her language, Marcus sat down slowly and put the bowl on the table. "I know you're scared, but your wing needs help. See?" He touched his own arm gently to show what he meant. "Help. Make better." Kira watched his movements carefully, but she did not come closer. Instead, she started making a strange sound, a high musical noise that seemed to come from deep in her throat. The sound was sad and frightened, and it made Marcus feel terrible. While Kira made her strange song, Marcus remembered that he had not eaten anything in many hours. His stomach made a loud rumbling sound. He was very hungry, but he did not want to leave Kira alone. Marcus reached into his work bag and pulled out a protein bar, a brown, rectangle-shaped food that tasted like meat and vegetables. It was not very good, but it gave him energy for long work days. When Kira saw the protein bar, her musical sound stopped suddenly. She stared at the brown bar in Marcus's hand with wide, terrified eyes. Her whole body started shaking worse than before. "It's just food," Marcus said, confused by her reaction. "I'm hungry." He unwrapped the protein bar and took a bite. It was tough and chewy, like most space food. As he ate, Marcus noticed that Kira was making small, panicked sounds. She pressed herself against the corner of the cloth and stared at him eating. "What's wrong?" Marcus asked, still chewing. "It's just a protein bar." But Kira acted like she had seen something horrible. She pointed at the brown bar, then at herself, saying urgent words in her language. Her voice was getting higher and more frightened. Marcus swallowed his bite of food and looked at her carefully. "You think, what? That I'm going to eat you?" Kira's reaction told him he was right. She made desperate gestures, pointing at the food, then at her own tiny body. She was trying to tell him that she thought he was going to eat her like the protein bar. "No, no, no," Marcus said quickly, putting the food down. "I don't eat people. This is not. You're not food." But Kira did not understand his words, and his actions had already scared her. She began making that high musical sound again, but now it was louder and more desperate. The sound seemed to fill the whole room. Marcus did not know it, but Kira was singing what her people called the final song. It was a telepathic warning that Pictionary sang when they were about to be killed. The song traveled through space to warn other Pictionary about danger. As Kira sang, her song reached other aliens on the station. In the main cargo area, a group of Vorthok merchants heard the telepathic warning. Vorthok looked like tall lizards with sharp teeth and cold, calculating eyes. They had been trading with the mining station for several months. One of the Vorthok, named Sek, lifted his head when he heard Kira's song. "Do you hear that?" he asked his companion. The other Vorthok nodded. "A Pictionary distress call." "Very close." "Interesting," Sek said with a cruel smile. "Pictionary are very valuable. We should investigate." Back in Marcus's room, Kira's song was getting weaker. The tiny person was using all her energy to send out the warning. Marcus watched helplessly as she sang, not understanding what was happening. "Please stop," Marcus said gently. "You're making yourself sick." He reached toward her to offer comfort, but Kira saw his large hand approaching and thought he was about to grab her. She tried to run, but stumbled because of her hurt wing. She fell on her side and made a small sound of pain. "I'm sorry," Marcus said, pulling his hand back. "I wasn't going to hurt you." Marcus felt frustrated and sad. He wanted to help this tiny person, but everything he did seemed to make her more afraid. He had never met anyone who was so terrified of him. The protein bar sat on the table, between them like evidence of his terrible intentions. Marcus realized that to Kira, he must look like a giant monster who had captured her for his next meal. "I'm not a monster," Marcus whispered to himself. But looking at Kira's terrified face, he wondered if that was how she would always see him. Marcus sat quietly at his table, watching Kira with worried eyes. The tiny person had stopped singing her strange song, but now she looked very tired. She lay on her side on the soft cloth, breathing hard. Her hurt wing twitched with pain. "You're exhausted," Marcus said softly. "Let me help you." He moved very slowly, trying not to scare her more. Marcus took a small piece of soft fabric and made it into a tiny pillow. He placed it near Kira, but not too close. "For your head," he explained, pointing to the small pillow. Kira looked at the pillow, then at Marcus. She seemed confused by his gentle action. Very carefully, she moved her small head onto the pillow. It seemed to help her feel a little better. Marcus smiled a tiny bit. It was the first time Kira had accepted anything from him. See? I want to help you feel better, Marcus said. Before Kira could react, loud knocking came from Marcus's door. The sound was hard and demanding. Marcus frowned. Nobody usually visited his quarters, especially not this late. Marcus-chan, a cold voice called from outside. We know you are in there. Open the door. Marcus recognized the voice. It belonged to Sek, one of the Vorthik merchants. Marcus had never liked the Vorthik. They were always looking for ways to make money, even if it meant hurting others. What do you want, Sek? Marcus called back. We need to talk with you. It is about something you found. Marcus looked at Kira. The tiny person was staring at the door with new fear in her eyes. Somehow, she seemed to understand that the voice outside meant danger. I don't know what you're talking about, Marcus said. Open the door. Human, or we will open it ourselves. Marcus knew that Sek was not making an empty threat. The Vorthik had tools that could break through doors. Marcus looked at Kira again. She was so small and hurt. He could not let the Vorthik see her. Quickly, Marcus picked up a small box from his shelf and opened it. Inside were some personal things from Earth, a few photos and a small plant that his mother had given him. He gently moved the plant to one side. I'm going to hide you, Marcus whispered to Kira. Stay very quiet. Kira did not understand his words. But when Marcus reached for her, she did not fight as much as before. She seemed to know that the voices outside were worse than Marcus thought. Marcus very carefully picked up Kira and placed her in the box, along with the soft cloth. The box was just big enough for her to lie down. He left the top open so she could breathe. Stay hidden, Marcus whispered. I won't let them hurt you. The knocking came again, harder this time. We are losing patience, human. Marcus put the box on a high shelf behind some other things. Then he walked to the door and opened it. 3 Vorthik stood outside. Sek was in front with 2 other Vorthik behind him. They were all tall and thin, with gray-green skin and cold yellow eyes. Their mouths had too many sharp teeth. What do you want? Marcus asked, blocking the doorway with his body. We heard a Pictionary distress call, Sek said, his long tongue flicking out to taste the air. The call came from this area. We believe you found something that belongs to us. I don't know what a Pictionary is, Marcus lied. And I haven't found anything. Sek's eyes became narrow and dangerous. Do not lie to us, human. Pictionary are very small people with clear wings. They are valuable property. Property? Marcus felt anger growing in his chest. People are not property. These are not people like you, another Vorthik said with a cruel laugh. They are pets, toys. Some species like to collect them, and some like to eat them, Sek added, watching Marcus's face carefully. Their fear makes the meat taste better. Marcus felt sick when he heard this. He thought about tiny Kira, hurt and afraid, and these monsters wanted to hurt her more. Get away from my door, Marcus said firmly. Not until we search your room, Sek said. We have the right to search for our property. No, you don't, Marcus said. This is human territory on the station. You have no rights here. Sek smiled, showing all his sharp teeth. We have made a deal with some humans on this station. They give us what we want, and we pay them well. Marcus knew that some humans would do anything for money, even hurt innocent beings. But he was not one of those humans. There's nothing here for you, Marcus said. Leave now. Let us see for ourselves, Sek said, pushing forward. Marcus did not move out of the way. No, you will regret this, human, Sek said. He made a gesture to the other Vorthik. The 2 Vorthik behind Sek moved forward quickly. One pulled out a shock weapon, a tool that could hurt someone with electricity. The other had sharp metal claws that fit over his fingers. Marcus knew he was in trouble. The Vorthok were dangerous fighters, and there were 3 of them. But he thought about Kira hiding in the box, small and helpless, and counting on him to protect her. "You want to fight?" Marcus said, raising his fists. "Fine, but you're not getting into my room." The first Vorthok swung his shock weapon at Marcus. Marcus ducked and punched the alien in the stomach. The Vorthok made a hissing sound and stumbled backward. The second Vorthok tried to scratch Marcus with his metal claws. Marcus grabbed the alien's arm and twisted it. The Vorthok dropped his weapon with a cry of pain, but Sek had his own weapon, a long knife with a curved blade. He jumped forward and sliced at Marcus's shoulder. The knife cut through Marcus's shirt and into his skin. Marcus felt the sharp pain but did not stop fighting. He grabbed Sek's wrist and held the knife away from his body. With his other hand, Marcus punched Sek in the face. "Why do you protect it?" Sek hissed as they struggled. "It is just a tiny thing. We will pay you well for it." "She's not an it," Marcus said through gritted teeth. "She's a person, and I won't let you hurt her." The fight continued in the hallway. Other workers heard the noise and came to see what was happening. When they saw the fight, some helped Marcus. Others just watched. Finally, station security arrived. The security team had both humans and aliens, and they did not like the Vorthok causing trouble. "Break it up," the security chief shouted. "What's going on here?" Sek pulled away from Marcus, breathing hard. "This human has stolen our property. We demand to search his room." "I haven't stolen anything," Marcus said. Blood was running down his arm from the knife cut, but he still stood in front of his door. The security chief looked at both of them. "Do you have proof that this human took something from you?" "The Pictionary call came from this area," Sek said. "That's not proof," the security chief said. "You can't search someone's room without evidence." Sek looked very angry, but he knew the station rules. "This is not over, human," he said to Marcus. "We will find what we are looking for." The 3 Vorthok left, making threatening sounds as they walked away. Marcus waited until they were gone, then quickly went back into his room and locked the door. Marcus locked his door and leaned against it, breathing heavily. His shoulder hurt where Sek's knife had cut him. Blood soaked through his shirt, making a red stain that grew bigger. He looked up at the shelf where he had hidden Kira. The box was still there, quiet and still. "Kira?" Marcus called softly. "Are you okay?" "They're gone now." Marcus climbed on a chair and carefully took down the box. When he looked inside, he saw Kira curled up in the corner. She was shaking, but her large eyes were watching him carefully. "It's safe now," Marcus said, setting the box on the table. Kira said something in her musical language. Her voice was very quiet, like she was afraid the bad aliens might hear her. Marcus sat down in his chair, trying not to move too quickly. His shoulder was bleeding more now, and he needed to take care of it. But he did not want to scare Kira by moving around too much. "I need to clean this cut," Marcus said, pointing to his shoulder. "Those bad aliens hurt me." Kira climbed out of the box slowly. Her hurt wings still made it hard for her to move, but she managed to stand on the table. She looked at Marcus's bloody shoulder with wide eyes. Marcus went to his small bathroom and got his medical kit. It had bandages, cleaning liquid, and medicine for pain. When he came back, Kira was still standing on the table, watching him. Marcus tried to clean his cut, but it was hard to reach. The wound was on the back of his shoulder, and he could not see it very well. He twisted his arm and tried to put medicine on it, but he could not do it right. "This is harder than I thought," Marcus said to himself as he struggled to reach his wound. Marcus knocked over a small cup of water. The cup fell to the floor and broke into pieces. Water spilled everywhere. "Oh no," Marcus said. He got down on his hands and knees to clean up the mess. While Marcus cleaned the floor, Kira watched him very carefully. She saw how gentle he was with the broken pieces. He picked up each piece slowly and carefully, making sure not to cut himself more. Then Marcus did something that surprised Kira. On his small desk, he had a tiny plant in a pot, a gift from his mother on Earth. When Marcus stood up from cleaning the floor, he noticed that some water had splashed on the plant. Marcus gently touched the small leaves of the plant. "Sorry, little one," he whispered to the plant. "I didn't mean to splash you." He took a soft cloth and very carefully dried the water from the plant's leaves. He was so gentle that he did not damage even one tiny leaf. Kira stared at this action. In all the stories her people told about giant aliens, none of them were gentle with small living things. Giants were supposed to crush and destroy and eat. They were not supposed to care about tiny plants. Marcus sat back down, still trying to reach his cut. He made frustrated sounds as he twisted his arm. Kira watched him struggle for a long time. Then, very slowly, she moved closer to him. She stayed ready to run away if he tried to grab her, but she moved closer than she had ever been before. Marcus saw her coming closer and stopped moving. "What are you doing?" he asked quietly. Kira pointed at his shoulder, then at the medicine in his hands. She said something in her language. Marcus looked at where she was pointing, then at her tiny hands. "You want to help me?" he asked in surprise. Kira nodded. It was a small movement, but Marcus saw it. You're not afraid of me anymore?" Kira said something in her musical voice. Marcus did not understand the words, but her tone was different now. She still sounded nervous, but not terrified. Very carefully, Marcus moved his hand closer to Kira. She tensed up, but she did not run away. Marcus opened his palm near her. "If you want to help, you can climb on," Marcus said softly. Kira looked at his large palm for a long time. Then, moving very slowly, she stepped onto his hand. She was so light that Marcus could barely feel her weight. Marcus lifted his hand very gently and moved it toward his hurt shoulder. "Can you see the cut?" he asked. Kira looked at the wound and said something that sounded worried. The cut was deeper than Marcus had thought, and it was still bleeding. Marcus gave Kira a small piece of cloth soaked with medicine. "Can you put this on the cut?" he asked. Kira took the cloth in her tiny hands. It was big compared to her, but she managed to hold it. Very carefully, she pressed the cloth against Marcus's wound. The medicine stung, and Marcus made a small sound of pain. Kira stopped immediately and looked at his face with worried eyes. "It's okay," Marcus said quickly. "It hurts a little, but that's normal. You're doing great." Kira seemed to understand that she was helping him feel better, even though it hurt at first. She continued cleaning his wound with gentle, careful movements. As Kira worked, Marcus stayed very still. He did not want to move and accidentally hurt her. He watched her tiny face as she concentrated on helping him. "You're very brave," Marcus said softly, "and very kind." When Kira finished cleaning the cut, Marcus gave her a bandage. "Can you help me put this on too?" Working together, they got the bandage on Marcus's shoulder. It was not perfect, but it was much better than Marcus could have done alone. "Thank you," Marcus said when they finished. "That feels much better." Kira sat down on Marcus's palm, looking tired but pleased. For the first time since he found her, she did not look afraid of him. Marcus remembered that Kira's wing was still hurt. "Now let me help you," he said. "Your wing needs medicine too." This time, when Marcus reached for the medical supplies, Kira did not try to run away. She seemed to understand that he wanted to help her the same way she had helped him. Marcus used the smallest bandage he had and very gently wrapped Kira's hurt wing. He was so careful that Kira barely felt any pain. "There," Marcus said when he finished. "That should help it heal." Kira looked at her bandaged wing, then up at Marcus. She said something in her language that sounded like, "Thank you." Marcus smiled. "You're welcome." For the first time, Kira smiled back. It was a tiny smile, but Marcus could see it clearly dot as they sat together at the table. Marcus noticed that his translation device was blinking. The device was old and slow, but it had been listening to Kira's language and trying to learn it. "Maybe we can understand each other better now," Marcus said, pointing to the device. The device made a soft beeping sound, then spoke in Marcus's language. Translation protocol partially established. Limited communication possible. Marcus looked at Kira with excitement. "Can you understand me now?" The device repeated his words in Kira's musical language. Kira's eyes went wide with surprise. "Yes," she said, and the device translated her response. "I can understand you. You really do not want to eat me?" Marcus laughed softly. "No, I don't want to eat you. I want to help you. I want to be your friend." When Kira heard the translation, she looked amazed. "Friend? Giants can be friends with small ones?" "Of course," Marcus said. "Size doesn't matter for friendship. What matters is being kind to each other." Kira thought about this for a long time. Everything she had ever learned told her that big aliens were dangerous. But Marcus had protected her from the really bad aliens. He had been gentle with her and with his little plant. He had let her help him when he was hurt. "My people have stories about giants," Kira said slowly. "All the stories say giants are evil. But you are not evil. There are good and bad people at every size," Marcus said. "Some giants are bad, like those Vorthak. But some giants are good. Some small people are good, like you. And some small people are bad, too." This was a new idea for Kira. Her people had always thought that all big beings were dangerous. "You saved me from the bad giants," Kira said. "Yes," Marcus said. "And you helped me when I was hurt." We helped each other. Kira looked down at her bandaged wing, then at Marcus's bandaged shoulder. "We are both hurt," she said. "But we are both healing." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "We're both getting better." Marcus and Kira sat together at the small table, talking through the translation device. For the first time since Marcus found her, Kira looked relaxed. She was telling him about her home world and her family. "We live in crystal trees," Kira explained. "The trees grow tall like mountains, and we make homes in the hollow spaces. Everything is small and beautiful there." "It sounds wonderful," Marcus said. "How did you end up on this mining station?" Kira's expression became sad. "My family came here to trade crystal dust. But when we were leaving the station, there was an accident. The ship door closed before I could get on. I was left behind." "Your family must be very worried about you," Marcus said. "Yes, they think I'm dead by now. When Pictionary get lost, we usually die quickly. Big places are dangerous for us." Marcus felt sorry for Kira's family. They'd probably thought they had lost her forever. "Maybe we can contact them," Marcus suggested. "The station has long-distance communication equipment." Before Kira could answer, they heard new sounds outside Marcus's door. But these sounds were different from the Vorthak's angry knocking. These sounds were musical and high, like Kira's voice. Kira sat up straight, her eyes wide with surprise. "Those are my people," she said excitedly. "They came back for me." Marcus heard many tiny voices outside his door, all talking at once in Kira's musical language. There were also deeper voices. Station security was with them. Marcus Chun called the security chief. "We have some visitors who want to talk to you. They say you have their family member." Marcus looked at Kira. "Are you ready to see your family?" Kira nodded, but then looked worried. "What if they think you hurt me? My people are very afraid of giants." "We'll explain what really happened," Marcus said. "They'll understand when they see that you're safe." Marcus carefully picked up Kira and carried her to the door. When he opened it, he saw something amazing. 12 tiny Pictionary were floating in the hallway. their clear wings shining in the light. They looked just like Kira, but some were older and some were younger. Behind the Pictionary, 3 station security officers watched carefully. They looked confused and amazed by the tiny floating people. When the Pictionary saw Marcus holding Kira, they all started talking at once. Their voices were angry and frightened. They thought the giant human had captured their family member. Kira called an older Pictionary who looked like her. "Are you hurt? What has this giant done to you?" "Mother," Kira called back. "I am safe. This giant saved me." The Pictionary family stopped talking all at once. They stared at Kira with shocked expressions. "Saved you?" Kira's mother asked in disbelief. "Giants do not save small ones. They hunt us." "Not this giant," Kira said firmly. "Marcus is good. He protected me from the bad giants who wanted to hurt me." Marcus gently set Kira down on a small table in the hallway so her family could see her better. The Pictionary flew closer, but they stayed ready to escape if Marcus made any threatening moves. "Show them your wing," Marcus said quietly to Kira. Kira lifted her bandaged wing. Marcus fixed my wing when it was broken. He was very gentle. An older male Pictionary, who seemed to be Kira's father, flew closer to examine her wing. "This is good medical work," he said with surprise. "Very careful and precise." "And look," Kira said, pointing to Marcus's bandaged shoulder. "I helped fix his wound too." We helped each other. The Pictionary family looked at Marcus's bandage, then at each other. This was not what they had expected to find. "Tell them about the bad giants," Marcus said through the translation device. Kira explained about the Vorthic merchants and how they wanted to capture her. She told her family how Marcus had fought to protect her, even though he got hurt doing it. "He could have given me to them," Kira said. "They offered him money, but he said I was a person, not property. He said he would not let them hurt me." The security chief stepped forward. "The human is telling the truth," he said. "We had to break up a fight between him and some Vorthic merchants. The Vorthic were trying to search his room without permission." Kira's mother flew closer to Marcus. She was still nervous, but not as afraid as before. "You really protected our daughter?" she asked. "Yes," Marcus said simply. "She was hurt and scared. I could not let anyone harm her more." "But why?" asked Kira's father. "You are so much bigger than us. What do you gain from helping such a small person?" Marcus thought about the question carefully. "Where I come from, we believe that protecting those who cannot protect themselves is the right thing to do. Size does not matter. What matters is being kind and helping each other." The Pictionary family talked among themselves in their musical language. Marcus could not understand their words, but he could hear the surprise in their voices. Finally, Kira's mother spoke to Marcus again. "In all our history, no giant has ever protected a Pictionary. Our stories tell us that all big beings want to hurt us." "Some big beings are bad," Marcus agreed. "But some are good. Just like some small beings are good, and some are bad." And very old Pictionary flew forward. She was smaller than the others and moved slowly, but the other Pictionary treated her with great respect. "I am the family's memory keeper," she said. "I remember all our stories and history. What you have done has never happened before." She flew closer to Marcus and looked at him carefully with her ancient eyes. "You have changed something important today," the memory keeper continued. "For the first time, we have met a giant who protects instead of destroys." The old Pictionary reached into a small bag she carried and pulled out something that glowed softly. It was a scale from a Pictionary wing, but it shined like a tiny star. "This is a trust scale," she explained. "We give them only to those who have earned our deepest respect. No giant has ever received one." She flew to Marcus's hand and gently placed the glowing scale on his palm. It was so light he could barely feel it, but it was warm and beautiful. "Thank you," Marcus said, amazed by the gift. Thank you, the memory keeper replied. You have shown us that our stories about giants may need to change. Perhaps there are more good giants among the stars. Kira flew to Marcus's other hand and landed gently on his finger. Will you visit my homeworld someday? She asked. I would love to, Marcus said with a smile. If your people would welcome a giant visitor. After today, I think they would, Kira said. I will tell everyone about the kind giant who saved me. I will tell them that size does not make someone good or bad. What makes someone good is what they do to help others. The memory keeper nodded approvingly. This will become a new story for our people. The story of Marcus the Protector, the first good giant. As the Pixnary family prepared to leave with Kira, she looked back at Marcus one more time. Thank you for teaching me that giants can be friends, she said. Thank you for teaching me that being small does not mean being weak, Marcus replied. You were very brave. Kira smiled her tiny smile. Maybe someday, all small people and all big people can be friends like us. I hope so, Marcus said. I really hope so. As the Pixnary family flew away with Kira, Marcus held the glowing trust scale carefully in his hand. It was small, but it represented something huge. The beginning of understanding between his people and hers. From that day forward, the story of Marcus and Kira spread throughout the galaxy. Small beings learned that not all giants were dangerous, and big beings learned that even the smallest person could be brave and kind. Marcus kept the trust scale on his desk next to his mother's plant. Sometimes, when he was having a hard day, he would look at it and remember that kindness could change everything, one small act at a time.